Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Disney Plus series that may or may not be out yet, depending on when I can get this video out, and everyone may or may not like it. I don't know, I'm making this video before it's out. Before its release, I wanted to do a video on what many people say is the worst Star Wars film ever made. Now, canonically, Star Wars, in my opinion, has more misses than hits. I mean, it really does seem like today Star Wars can't drop a thing without it dividing the world. But let's just get the facts straight here. Attack of the Clones is abysmal, Solo is a hollow empty thing. Rise of Skywalker is like Star Wars if it was made by a child with crayons, and we just don't discuss the holiday special, which I found out that's canon. The holiday special's canon. It's not like there's a homogeneity to the way each of these Star Wars movies fail. They're all special in their unique failings, and it's fun to note the special way films fail. The film I'm talking about today is the start of that Star Wars decline. Now let's go back in time all the way to 1999. Family Guy just aired its first series, the Euro was introduced, and George Bibulus was celebrating his first birthday. But most importantly to this video, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out in cinemas. Now, put yourself in the shoes of your average Star Wars fan that grew up with the originals. You watched the journey Luke and his pals went on, how their bond of friendship saved the galaxy, how the evil Darth Vader would do anything to foil their plans. In the originals, you hear little snippets like Clone Wars and Republic, and your head conjures up all these fantastic stories of the past. And then as you get a little bit older, you hear about the plans of new films covering the rise of Darth Vader, the conflict of the Clone Wars. You've been waiting years for this. The date of Episode 1 is getting closer. You booked your ticket weeks in advance for the midnight screening. You've got your Yoda costume on, you got your Jar Jar Binks tongue lollipop, and you got one of them blow-up lightsabers. You're ready and raring. The cinema employee opens the door with fear towards the congregating masses, and you shove him down to the floor and rush to the screen in excitement. You get in your seat, shaking and crying from the adrenaline coursing through your veins. The screen comes on. You hear that iconic duh, and then you see the title crawl, and you're greeted with this. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes to outlying star systems is in dispute. Hoping to resolve the matter with a blockade of deadly battleships, the Greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of no. But this is so boring. It's so boring, in fact, that I've switched off. I'm just reading the words. I'm not taking them in. I don't know what this means because it's so fucking boring to read. While the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming chain of events, the Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights, the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy, to settle the conflicts. Okay, the end bit, that bit sounds a bit more interesting. I don't know why they open with all that, the tax shit. Boring. This is a movie for children. George Lucas, why are you filling their heads with trade routes and taxations? Like, I'm 23 years of age, and I can barely make sense of this. You know, at least from this text, we know that the Jedi are going to be in it. Not just 1 Jedi, but 2 Jedi. This is really, really, really exciting, because we've never, ever seen 2 Jedis with each other before the Empire took over. I mean, unless you count, like, Luke and Obi-Wan, and Luke and Yoda. But I mean, like, 2 with lightsabers, 2 holding lightsabers. This is our first glimpse of what they were like in the good old days, the glory days. This is them at their physical peak. I'll get a load of this. I was lounging in my living room catching up on the latest baby sensory videos, and I decided I wanted to book a summer holiday, or so I thought. Ring, 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 ring. Hello? Hello, George, it's Bank. You spent all your money on various foreign cheeses. Oh, fist it! How am I meant to book a holiday when I've got no money? I can feel myself begin to panic. The room is going dark. I was convinced I'd be brown bread until my personalised metal Revolut card fell onto the floor, and it reminded me. Revolut stays. Look at me now. I'm catching rays as supermodels approach me on this beach in Croatia. I was for sure certain I wouldn't be able to afford a holiday, but because I use Stays, I can book the holiday straight away at exclusive rates with no booking fees and pay it all off later, all from the Revolut app. What's that tapping on my shoulder? No way, it's a talking cat. Aye, mate, I'm a cat. After booking my Stays, I got 10% cash back, so now I can use that money to go parasailing with a talking cat. But George, mate, I got no clothes. Look at that, cat. Everything on their app is up to 40% off if you use this card, as well as shops like Adidas and ASOS. That does sound tempting. I do like their garments. But don't worry, this pesky cat won't pull the wool over my eyes. I just opened up the Revolut app and split the cost with them like it was nothing. Oh, and those hidden fees when making purchases abroad? They didn't even cross my mind because they don't exist with this card. That's well good, mate. Download the app for free and get a £20 welcome bonus if you use the link in the description. T's and C's apply. The film opens with these Jedi entering a big ring spaceship. They talk very calmly and slowly about negotiating with the Trade Federation, which is very thrilling. Meanwhile, we see the first of a surprising amount of questionable alien races of the Star Wars prequels. The Neomedan, these these fuckers. These aliens are quite hard to watch because of the very obvious stereotypical East Asian accents assigned to them for some reason.
I'm not going in there with 2 Jedi.
They talk to the title Phantom Menace of the movie, Lord Sidious, who tells them to kill the Jedi. They get gassed by the these people. Escape and go on a killing spree, ending so many robot lives, cutting through droids like they're nothing. It's slightly epic. This whole bamboozling vibe. I feel off the gate you'd be kind of excited about what's happening in front of you, even though you barely have an understanding of the concept. Like, I only really do because I've been reading up on this hard. So for this video, I've probably seen the movie maybe like 5 times, and I had no idea the context behind it. I kind of just watched it because cool lightsaber battle, lol. But you know, it's straight into the action. We're seeing lightsabers, so I'm happy. We see a highly rare use of force speed used once and only once in the entirety of Star Wars canon. But you don't know that yet, so all you're seeing is all the action-filled potential in front of you. The Jedi discover the Separatists are planning on invading Naboo, a quite peaceful planet, kind of like Japan. It gives me a Japan vibe. The Jedi make a quick retreat with their plans on warning the defenseless Naboo people. But they land on the wrong side of the planet! You fucking idiot. How'd you land on the wrong side of the fucking planet? Thankfully, the GOAT, GOAT of Star Wars, literally undisputed greatest of all time, Jar Jar Binks is there to help. They follow him to the underwater Gungan city to find a way to Naboo to warn its people. At the Gungan city, they're given a tri-bubble bongo, which is like a stingray submarine spaceship thing by another questionably racist alien.
We shall give you on the bongo.
And make their way to Naboo. With Jar Jar helping to navigate, but all he does is shit himself in the stingray submarine bongo thing when they get bit by a big fish. By the time they get to Naboo, it's been fully invaded. Thousands of droids outside the capital. The Queen captured, not dead though. They don't want to kill her. They want to get her to sign a treaty to make the invasion legal. You can't break into someone's house and then force them at gunpoint to give you the house. That's so rude. Anyway, the Jedi were too late to warn the Naboo. Time to go for plan B, which is to sneak into the occupied city through the thousands of droids without being spotted. All the while with Jar Jar Binks in company, possibly the least subtle creature ever. Like, they didn't leave him in the tri-bubble bongo. No. He's coming as well. Awful decision making. But amazingly, they're able to sneak right through. And I don't know if they were planning on rescuing the Queen or if they just sort of bumped into her, but yeah, brilliant. They've got the Queen and some other refugees in a spaceship, but it doesn't end there. There's still a blockade in front of them. But by luck, they're also able to get past that incredibly easily as well. Everyone's unscathed and wanted to give R2-D2 a pat on the back for basically doing the job that he was designed to do. The ship is a little bashed up from the encounter with the blockade. This isn't really, like, I don't know, visually communicated to us, as it looks really chill and, like, operational in there. And it lands like a dream. But communicated verbally in this 20-second scene with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan says that the hyperdrive generator is gone.
The hyperdrive generator is gone.
And that they're gonna need a new one, or else they won't be able to go to Coruscant in time. Now, you may be asking, what the fuck is Coruscant? Isn't that a French pastry? No, it's like the planet where politics happens. And they can't just phone them up and tell them because they're worried that the message will be intercepted by the Trade Federation. So they need this part and they're in Tatooine to get it. Now, are you ready for the most boring fucking hour of your life where Qui-Gon just mills about on Tatooine, makes friends with a child and gambles? Because that's what the next bit in the Phantom Menace is all about. In context, if you're paying attention at this point and actually know what's going on, which I'd say is probably like 10% of the people watching it, there should be a lot of tension and concern. Naboo, a planet that's whole gimmick is 100% peaceful, is in the midst of being invaded. They're like the planetary equivalent of a cute little puppy desperate for a cuddle. And the Trade Federation is basically pissing on that puppy. You don't want that puppy to be pissed on, do you? Because it doesn't deserve that. The Trade Federation is looking like a big bully, I would say. Qui-Gon Jinn decides to go into town to try and find a way to fix the broken piece of the ship so they can get to Coruscant. The elite team Qui-Gon decides to bring with him on his journey is R2-D2. Okay, classic choice. A 14-year-old girl. All right, Qui-Gon, a bit strange.
Don't restart, I'll knock you out clean.
And Jar Jar Binks, okay. I mean, I'm not sure why he seems to love Jar Jar so much. He brings him everywhere with him, and we're never given a reason. He takes him when they infiltrate Naboo to save the Queen. He comes along to Coruscant, and for some reason, he seems to be the only capable ally Qui-Gon decides to bring with him to Tatooine. He doesn't want Obi-Wan. He just kind of leaves him in the ship. He doesn't want the Queen's Guard. Qui-Gon wants his Jar Jar. Maybe Qui-Gon Jinn, the Master Jedi, is being manipulated himself by a dark and evil energy. An energy so sinister that he got gutted from the trilogy, but the gaping wounds of that gutting can still make a shape that can only be understood through deep intellectual analysis of the intricate subtext of the prequel trilogy and its production, because as George Lucas himself actually said, Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Jar Jar is the key to all this.
You see, my friends, the prequels were devised with the intention of having a poetic relationship with the original trilogy.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And for the most part, that is the case. Anakin is a subversion of Luke. As Luke grows into the hero of the light, we see Anakin become the warrior of the dark. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan both sacrifice themselves for protecting the one thing they believe will bring balance to the Force. We see the fall of the Republic giving way to the Empire, and we watch the destruction of the Empire give way to the Rebellion. You see, it's like poetry.
So if they rhyme.
But there's one stanza here that just feels a little bit out of place, and that's Jar Jar. And it's not that it doesn't rhyme completely. In the original trilogy, there was also a goofy alien, which the protagonist found to be dumb, annoying, and cringe. But where the poetry diverges is that little alien doesn't just keep being annoying and cringe until he was pushed to the side. He was revealed as being the greatest Jedi Master of all time, Yoda. Now, if George Lucas was maintaining this goal of rhyme, then it doesn't feel like much of a stretch for Jar Jar to be revealed as the greatest Sith Master of all time. And it's not just this hard fact that supports this idea. There are many indications that Jar Jar has a much deeper power, of which we never get an explanation. Look at when he jumps into the water to get to Naboo. That's not a normal Gungan leap. If it was, why don't we see Gungans jumping like that all over the battlefield in the final fight? They're a water-dwelling race. There's absolutely no physiological requirement for a Gungan to be able to jump like that. The only time we've seen anyone in the Star Wars universe jump that way is from Force users. Okay, still not convinced? Okay, alright, sure. But it does go deeper. There are a handful of small moments where it seems Jar Jar is performing Sith mind tricks on poor, unassuming individuals. Now, let's look back at why Qui-Gon would want to bring Jar Jar, as well as a 14-year-old handmaid to the Queen on a dangerous mission to a desert wasteland. When we see Captain Panaka request that Qui-Gon take Padme with him, we can see the subtle powers at play as Jar Jar subtly moves his mouth, using Panaka as a puppet to ensure that Padme will meet Anakin, beginning his predestined journey to the dark side through attachment. And here's another. When Sebulba attacks Jar Jar just as Anakin intervenes, we can clearly see Jar Jar do some form of mind trick on Sebulba to get him to back down. Jar Jar also gets quite an insane promotion in this film. He gets made Bomber General. Even though Ruga Nass, the Gungan ruler, seems to hate him at the start of the film. In the scene where he's made General, you can see him doing this hand gesture, like a Jedi mind trick. And then in Attack of the Clones, he's promoted to Senator by Padme, and you can see him doing the same hand gesture again. Now, really, being realistic here, would any sane person promote this fucking thing to be a senator? No way. In fact, Jar Jar is almost a pivotal key to the fall of the Republic. He becomes a primary representative of Palpatine in the Clone Wars, and is the most vocal speaker when it comes to giving Palpatine emergency powers. Do it. As he makes the speech, you can see him doing the hand gestures again. And this was pretty much the choice that acted as the final nail in the coffin for the Republic. Jar Jar even stays by Palpatine's side all the way to Revenge of the Sith. Now, why would Palpatine make one of his confidants someone like Jar Jar? Every move Palpatine makes in the prequels is calculated, but only a Sith Master of Jar Jar's caliber would have the power to force trick thousands of aliens to give up democracy. Because, again, Jar Jar is the key to all of this. Sadly, due to fan outrage, George Lucas pussied out of this honestly pretty sick original concept for Jar Jar, and we never got to see his fully realized version of Jar Jar as a Sith. Now, in canon, Jar Jar ends up being an outcast for selling out the Republic, where he became a homeless clown on the streets that everyone hates. But this theory, which was first hypothesized by Reddit user Lumpawaru, is a lot of fun and kind of makes rewatching this film way more entertaining, because in this film, Jar Jar doesn't seem to be given anything to do. He's just walking around Tatooine and falling over like a fucking idiot. The idea that he has like an intention, a purpose, a reason to exist, and a way of impacting the world and characters that he's in, it has a powerful appeal, and to be honest, I believe it. So, the evil Sith Lord, the Jedi, the droid, and Padme walk through Tatooine and enter a small store owned by another legendary racist alien from the genius mind of George Lucas, Watto. And he seems to be the only trader who has the piece they need for the ship. I assume because Qui-Gon is forced to gamble for this piece. If anyone else had the hyperdrive generator Qui-Gon needed, he wouldn't have been forced to gamble the trillion-quid spaceship he just stole from Naboo, which he doesn't even legally own. Whilst at the shop, we also meet Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, but instead of being a big robot man, he's a little child, and he's a human slave for Watto. Anakin basically lays out a bit of preliminary groundwork on Padme, you know, dropping game.
Got an apartment 5 minutes away, innit?
As well as Padme's attention, little Anakin also plays with the attention of Qui-Gon Jinn, who notices that Anakin isn't like the other kids. So Qui-Gon immediately decides he needs to adopt him into his Jedi cult. But this also gives Qui-Gon an additional justifiable reason within the Jedi code to gamble on Anakin winning the pod race, which is like sort of like Tatooine wacky racers. Qui-Gon is dead set that Anakin can win this race, and he bets Watto with the ultimate stakes: people's lives. Qui-Gon decides to add further to the bet, betting that fat fuck Watto that if Anakin doesn't win the race, he not only gets the hyperdrive generator, but also gets ownership of Watto's 11-year-old slave. Qui-Gon half-heartedly tries to give Anakin's mum freedom as well, but Watto just completely dismisses the idea, saying that no pod is worth 2 slaves. But then Watto won't even let Qui-Gon choose what slave he gets and rolls a dice. This produces a moment where Qui-Gon actually uses the Force to ensure that Anakin's mother stays in slavery for the rest of her life. They do the pod race and it's pretty epic, I'm not gonna lie. It's like a cool sequence, but it goes on for fucking ever. And it has no real bearing on the actual story, but it does look cool. It's sort of exciting. Anakin wins, as we expect, despite some interference from that Sebulba fella that Jar Jar did the thing on. And Sebulba was so determined to win this race, he was willing to try and murder a child, but he fails, and Qui-Gon's big bet comes through. Qui-Gon makes a check-in call to Obi-Wan to let him know that despite their being apart, the pulse of Obi-Wan's heart still radiates his soul, and that they're going to grow their little family by one more. He's got this amazing Force user to join the Jedi Order. Obi-Wan says Qui-Gon is being insane because, frankly, he is. A weird thing you might notice when watching this cinematic masterpiece is Obi-Wan doesn't do anything in this whole film. He sits around a bunch and argues with Qui-Gon about Anakin, but mostly he's just there for muscle. Ewan McGregor is one of the best actors involved in the prequel movies, and his performance of Obi-Wan is so entertaining to watch. The guy's so perfect for the role that when filming the Disney Plus series, he nearly adopted a camel. I'm not sure where he would have kept this camel, but regardless, it's pure Ben Kenobi vibes. He's also the closest link we have to the original trilogy, and not as if this is a bad thing, but the prequels don't look like the original trilogy very much. Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan just comes in and scratched that nostalgia itch so nicely. But sadly, it feels like despite being one of the strongest characters in all the prequels, George Lucas couldn't find anything for Obi-Wan to do. But unlike in the original trilogy, he couldn't just kill him off. They get all their team together, and then Darth Sidious's apprentice tries to run over a child. Oh man, he's just like me. Qui-Gon and Darth Maul have a bit of a rumble. Qui-Gon makes his escape, and they fly to Coruscant. And that's all the Tatooine stuff, thank fuck. This took up almost a whole hour of the film. A whole hour. It was so boring. And the whole time you're thinking about all the horrible things happening to the sweet, innocent Nebulians. That's what a citizen of Naboo is called, in case you were wondering. A Nebulian. And you're worried for them and going, oh no, I sure hope they can get this essential shit piece so they can get to Coruscant and save the Nebulians as soon as possible. Who knows what terrible war crimes are being committed to the Nebulians? So they get to Coruscant and basically the Republic Council agrees to do nothing. What the fuck? This council is shit! The main politician guy, who's basically the president of Star Wars at this moment, Supreme Chancellor Valorum, is so bad that the only thing he can get his Galactic Republic to decide on is that he's shit. So bad that they do a vote of no confidence, but that's going to take a week. A week that the Nebulians can't afford. And with such a terrible Galactic Republic, it's no wonder the Separatists want an alternative to it. But what's even worse is that the Jedi Council, which consists of the best and most accomplished Jedi in the universe, are reduced to sitting in these differently sized special chairs in a ring like they're in an AA meeting. They refuse Qui-Gon's request to train Anakin and basically say that the Sith don't exist. When they do, we've seen them. Next, we get a crazy twist. The Queen's 14-year-old handmaiden Padme is actually the real Queen of Naboo, and she won't wait a week. She's going back to Naboo right now to fight for her people, and the boys are coming along. And of course, Jar Jar does some Sith mind tricks to get brought along too. But before they leave, Anakin gives Padme a little hand-carved necklace so she can remember him. This is pretty unrealistic though. My 11-year-old cousin once gave me a handmade gift so I would remember him. And it was a snail shell with an Among Us character drawn on it. Pretty weird, but I can't remember his name. Anyway, they get to Naboo pretty easily and without issue. What happened to the fucking blockades? Padme organises a meeting with the Gungans and is somehow able to convince them to fight for Naboo by talking good. What ensues is the finale of the film, a 4-way action sequence where Anakin fights in space, Padme storms the castle, and the Gungans fight the droid army, and the Jedi fight Darth Maul in the most epicest lightsaber battle ever. Darth Maul's lightsaber is like double-sided, so it's doubly as awesome. And there's really cool music like da 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 da. They're doing the lightsaber battles like jung 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 jung. Anyway, you know the deal. The hero's pretty much winning every way. Qui-Gon Jinn dies, even though if Obi-Wan just used force speed when he was running down the hall, they'd probably both still be fine. He convinces the Jedi Council to take in Anakin, and they have like a Viking-style burial for Qui-Gon. And we end with the big question, the big question, the title of the film. Who is the Phantom Menace? It's Jar Jar. So is the Phantom Menace the worst Star Wars movie? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's definitely one of the bad ones, though. I think because of the weird, confusing, and like overstuffed story, where it takes someone with like a fucking PhD to follow everything that's going on. Some things manage to come through that are interesting. It's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely doesn't come close to the peak of Star Wars, but I've always been split between this and Attack of the Clones as the worst Star Wars movie. But since some of the Disney stuff has come out, it's hard to commit to one being the worst. Maybe I'll find out later if I look at the other ones, so let me know if you want to see that.